What's up everyone? In this video I will demonstrate the method that I use to plan my learning when it comes to studying something new, how I set realistic goals and how I track my performance to make sure that I'll get the most out of the process. A lot of people believe that being a developer is easy once you get your first job, and this is totally wrong. The main misconception is that being a developer means writing code, but this is just one part of it. The real challenge is to keep up with the industry standards and be up to date with the trends, frameworks, and all the new available tools. In order to achieve that, you as a developer have to be in a constant learning and researching state. I have been consistently expanding my knowledge in the field for the past 6 years, and throughout this time I have tried various systems to plan my learning, and I'm going to present to you the one that helped me the most. Every planning system requires goal setting in advance. To increase the probability of success, the goals I'm setting need to be SMART, meaning specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. In our case, the objective is to learn something new, and therefore we can't really know in advance what a realistic goal looks like. Or can we? Let me explain myself with an example. I'm currently learning something completely new to me, which is YouTube. If I focus on the output of the process, a logical goal would be to produce one video every X amount of days. While this goal is smart, for me it won't work out, since I have no idea how much time I need to create a video, as it involves multiple things like scripting, recording, and editing that are completely new to me, and therefore I can't really estimate how time-consuming they will be. Most of the time, when you are just starting out with something, you severely underestimate the time you need to complete certain tasks, and this leads to demotivation since you're underperforming according to your predefined goals. So instead of focusing on the output, I like to focus on the thing I have control over, which is my time. While I cannot be sure that I will be able to create one video per week, I can be sure that I will be able to dedicate 20 hours of my week to learning how to create videos. This type of goal setting enables better progress tracking and reviewing and leads to increased self-motivation, as it depends 100% on the things I have control over. Here is exactly how I approach it. First, I identify how many hours I can dedicate per week. I open my calendar and see where I have spots that I can fill with YouTube time. I make a summary, and that's my weekly hours. This will be my short-term goal for every week. Then I convert these hours to a quarterly goal. Setting quarterly goals is proven to be a sweet spot that is long-term enough to enable proper progress, but it's not too far in the future to be overwhelming and demotivating. Finally, I create a tracking system for my goals. For this, I am using a combination of a handwritten schedule and a web app called Trello. The goal tracking has more or less the same separation as the goal setting. I track my performance daily, weekly, and quarterly. My handwritten schedule is used to track my day-to-day consistency, while the Trello board is used to track my week-to-week performance and check if I am aligned with my quarterly goal. The key day of each week is Sunday, when I make sure that two things are happening. First, I review the past week's performance, and second, I schedule the upcoming week. I'll explain the latter first to make it more clear. So I open my calendar and I see if I can still work on my dedicated time slots. Right now I have a pretty consistent routine, so I have almost the same schedule every week. If one time slot is occupied by another event, I make sure to cover these hours on other days. Once I know how many hours I'll dedicate each day, I grab my handwritten schedule. I create checkboxes for each day, with every checkbox representing an hour of work. I know that writing by hand feels outdated, but I've noticed that long term, this really helps me stay motivated. Once I'm done with that, I open my weekly schedule board on Trello and I assign tasks to days. Of course, most of the time I underestimate the hours needed for each task, and I end up moving the tasks from day to day. But that's totally fine, because I review my performance based on my hours, and I only use this board as an overview of what I have to do. But as I already mentioned, before the next week's planning, I review last week's performance. I count the checked boxes and I transfer the results to my quarter planning board. Each green block corresponds to a weekly goal, so I move the corresponding box to the right list and I include in the title any surplus or deficit of hours for that week. This way, when the quarter ends, I can see how many hours I invested and compare them with my actual goal. Of course, there are a million ways of tracking down your spent time, and this is just one that I like and works for me. I repeat this process each week for the next 12 weeks. At the end of the quarter, I see how I performed, if I managed to reach my goal, and how I feel about it. If I don't manage to reach my hours, or I feel overwhelmed by the past 3 months, I either drop the goal hours for the next quarter, or I reduce my attention on other things I'm doing in my life to focus more on the thing that I'm learning. There are two main things that I want to point out relating to this planning approach. First, you need to be present. There is really no point in marking your learning hours if half of them are wasted watching TikTok or looking at the ceiling. You have to be honest with yourself and either be there 100% while you're working on the thing, or mark the actual hours, since there will always be days that you will slack off for a bit. For example, if I work for 4 hours on the thing I'm currently learning, and I know that half of them wasn't really productive, I'll simply count 3 hours. This way, I embrace productivity, I discourage distraction, and I make sure that I'm not cheating myself. The second thing I need to mention is that this approach is not forever or for everything. It does a brilliant job when you cannot really estimate how much time you need to complete something, and that is why it fits perfectly in the learning process of rather complex things. But once you get more and more familiar with the thing that you are learning, it's a really good idea to switch to a more output-oriented approach, because in the end, the output is what matters in most cases. Just to give you a time frame, most of the time I stick to this type of planning for 6 to 12 months. So that was it for today, guys. I hope you found some value in this video, and see you on the next one.